how can they be employed and used in an academic reading and vocabulary course at my university? So the main issues I try to address are whether these tools can improve a student's ability to summarize and paraphrase a given passage. That was on the theme of intercultural communication. And can these AI-based online tools improve a student's grammar, their writing style, when given the task of summarizing and paraphrasing a given passage? And also, how do students perceive these tools after using them to help them when putting together their summaries? Okay, so the class, 40 students, quite a large class, economic majors, and based on the entrance exam test, their scores place them as being advanced. Okay, so this is about the course. It's based on an EGAP course, so English for General Academic Purposes. So for this particular course, we have 2 objectives and 4 core skills. So the objective is to improve reading and vocabulary building skills. So we do things like word parts, prefixes, suffixes, synonym vocabulary, skimming and scanning, and paraphrase and summarizing. So today I will talk about number 4, paraphrasing and summarizing, and what I did in class in relation to how I used AI tools. So there are many AI tools used for summarizing and paraphrasing. Most of them are free, some of them are terrible, some of them are paid and better. So what I went with is one called Quillbot. This is free to an extent. So here is a screenshot. So what you do is you paste in your content on the left box and then press paraphrase, and on the box on the right it will give you a paraphrased and summarized version of the text you inputted, and you can hover over each word and change it. So you have synonyms, and you can rechange the sentences as well. So you can edit it, change it at will using this system. However, because it's free, the free version, you can only input 125 words at a time. If you want more functionality and you want to paste in more words, you need to pay for it. Obviously, I didn't want students to pay for it. This was an experiment, so they were limited in that way. The second thing I wanted students to look at and use for their summary writing was DeepL. So this is quite a sophisticated neural machine translation system. Perhaps you're using it over there. Many students use it here. So basically, it's a very simple translation system, similar to Google Translate. You put in the text on the left and translate it to any language that you wish on the right. So prior to doing this experiment, and as part of the course, we did many activities and exercises by breaking up the main components of summarizing and paraphrasing. So summarizing, getting students to find out the main idea of the passage that they're summarizing, and then paraphrase with supporting details. So we went through some rules of what to do and how to understand the main ideas, how to use reporting verbs such as he suggested, they suggest, the company states, and changing the parts of speech of some words, changing passive to active voice when you paraphrase, look at ways to utilize reduction, changing a clause to a phrase, for example, and of course changing some words in intro text with synonyms. So we practiced this quite a lot before doing this experiment. Then when we did this experiment, I gave the students a passage to summarize. This was generated by ChatGPT. Of course, you need to be very careful. You need to fact check it. You need to check it for level and suitability. So I did that and I edited it, and then I attached a fictitious author to it and a title as well. The level of the passage was about level C2 on the CRFLF scale, and the length of the passage which I used was 600 words. So I asked students to use their own words to summarize the main point of the passage and paraphrase this with supporting details with reporting verbs on what the author thinks or says. And I wanted them to do this within about 250 words. Second time, I asked the students to make a second summary write, but this time, please do it with the same passage, but with AI support. We will use Quillbot. So I gave the students a tuition on Quillbot, on how to use it, and then I asked them to paraphrase the same passage, but this time with Quillbot support. And then the third summary writing, I asked them to use DeepL. Basic instructions were: use DeepL to translate the given passage, and this will help you understand it better. Then write your summary, paraphrasing in Japanese, and then translate it into English. And then look at the English version and edit it as appropriate, and then copy and paste it into the Google form. So everything was done in the Google form. So let's have a look at some of the data. So I asked a question after each summary writing, 1, 2, and 3, what was difficult for you? So we have paraphrasing, formulating and putting sentences together, deciding, working out the main idea, writing and supporting ideas, changing passive to active voice, the word order, using reporting verbs, synonyms, etc. So without AI support, as you can see, paraphrasing, 78% of students found that difficult to do by themselves. But when they use Quillbot, which is a paraphrasing tool, this got reduced down to 17 students at 43%. And then it went down again with DeepL support. So if you look at each category, Quillbot and DeepL seem to have helped the students for each of these categories, because the percentages and the number of students who found these categories difficult went down when they used Quillbot support or DeepL support. So according to the students, what were the advantages and disadvantages of Quillbot? So advantages: easy to summarize, obviously it's designed to do that. Can review grammatical mistakes, it's easy to come up with ideas and vocabulary. You can write clear, well-formed sentences and know how to paraphrase quickly. You can improve the quality of your summarizing. But if we look at the disadvantages, many students said, well, there's a danger of relying on it. You'll not be able to think for yourself. The sentences may sound awkward or unnatural. And your ability to learn English won't really improve if you rely on this model too much. So those were the kind of basic answers I got for that question. Then moving on to DeepL, how did the students perceive DeepL? So advantages: no need to use dictionaries, it saves time, easy to translate, reaction time of spent reading the original summary, reduction of the time spent reading the original summary. You can learn good examples of paraphrase and how to connect sentences. It's a very convenient tool, and it also helps with my sims. However, the advantages that the students gave, again, similar to Quillbot, you can depend on too much on it and you won't be able to think for yourself, and you can't get better at English. You can't memorize words, you can't remember them if you just use DeepL. Yeah, and the grammar may be unnatural due to differences in English and Japanese. So similar kind of disadvantages to Quillbot we can see here with DeepL. So survey questions of student attitudes to these tools. So my apologies, is in Japanese here, but the blue and red, blue is strongly agree, red is agree, yellow neither agree nor agree, green don't really agree, and purple don't agree at all. So as you can see, for this question, not cheating to use Quillbot for academic writing, this was kind of a polarized response, but most of the students, so about 55%, agreed that it's not cheating to use Quillbot. If you look in the literature, some students and many teachers think using such AI tools can constitute cheating. Again, same question, but this time for DeepL. Similar kind of responses. Majority of students agreed that using DeepL or such translation software isn't really cheating. AI is useful for language learning. So as you can see, the majority at nearly 98% agreed that AI is useful for language learning. We should not use AI tools like Quillbot and DeepL for language learning. So 63% nearly said no, they didn't agree with this statement. Yeah, so and 15% strongly didn't agree with this statement. So most of the students think that these AI tools can be used positively for English language learning. So for English study, what's the best AI and online tools? So interestingly, they all suggested that DeepL and Coolbot, which they used in this experiment, were the most interesting and best of tools to use to learn English. They speak things like Google Translate and Webelo and other kind of dictionaries which they have used in the past. So will you use a Coolbot again? The majority said yes, but some stipulated conditions. They would use it sparingly so as to not rely on it or lose English proficiency. So if you rely on it, you won't really improve your English. But it's good for using for basic sentences or vocabulary, and also good for synonyms. So when I evaluated the software, how did it improve students' writing? So I looked at their writing with no AI support, their writing with Coolbot support, and their writing with DeepL support. And they were evaluated using pro writing aid software. So this allowed for subjectivity. Yeah. So of all the 3 student summaries, they were run through the software, the pro writing aid software, and then the score was given for grammar and style, and then they were statistically analyzed through ANOVA. So the grammar score is a result given based on a scan of the inputted documents, and it looks at misspelled words, missing punctuation, structure, and tenses. The style score is a little bit different. Yeah, it looks at how to make your writing more readable, less complex, offers suggestions on hidden passive verbs, long subordinate clauses, and passive indexes, etc. So let's have a look at some of the findings. So the pro writing aid grammar scores showed that there was a statistically significant difference in the grammar scores between the 3 groups of no student writing with AI support, of student writing with AI support, writing with Coolbot support, and writing with DeepL support. So these results suggest that summaries written by students with the Coolbot software led to better grammar scores. However, grammar scores of summaries written without AI support and written with the aid of DeepL showed no differences, which suggests that DeepL contribution to improving the students' grammar within the summaries was very minimal and not really significant. Coolbot, however, improved students' grammar scores significantly when compared to their writings with no AI support and with DeepL. Okay, so these findings may suggest that only the Coolbot tool can make an impact on students' grammar scores. When we look at style, we have different results. There was no statistical difference between the scores of the 3 student writings. If we look at the mean scores of the 3 summary groups, both the Coolbot mean score, DeepL mean score, were lower than the summary mean scores without AI support. So this suggests that both sets of AI support made the style scores worse and did not have a positive impact on the style of the summaries that the students wrote. This would suggest that the readability of these summaries deteriorated with the use of these AI-based tools, according to this pro-writing aid evaluations. So conclusion, many of the students who produced very good written work, there wasn't much benefit for them in using AI. Sometimes their scores went down with the AI tools. But for the majority of students, there was slight benefit with Coolbot, which is paid software, but they use the free version. Coolbot and DeepL may encourage bad habits, however, if not used correctly. There can be a dependence on them, as stated by some of the students in the survey. Also, these tools provide the potential for students to submit work they have not directly written themselves, but done artificially. And the quality of output generated can be questioned. Students may not achieve the learning outcomes of the course and how to write their summaries with paraphrase, as they may not fully understand the information they have created. So changes Coolbot makes may be inaccurate, may change meaning, and DeepL doesn't always translate accurately. So results can differ depending on the student's own grammar and vocabulary knowledge and their ability to spot mistakes or unnatural sentences and edit their work. So this kind of software can be used, I think, as an aid rather than a replacement. And I think many of the students recognize this. And although they all think that they will use Quillbot and DeepL again, they will use it sparingly or in limited situations rather than rely on it wholly as a replacement for their own English language learning. Okay, so I will stop there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Kavana. Maybe there are questions here in the audience.
Yes, thank you for this very interesting presentation. So your conclusion goes quite is quite against the use of Quillbot and DeepL in class, I would say. What is your intention? Do you intend to use it again, to use those tools again, or do you think that for your own practice as a teacher, there's no use using them?
I think for me personally, using the Quillbot or DeepL, no problem. I've used it before. I often
for you as a teacher, in your teaching practice.
It's a useful tool. So I always encourage it, even though the results suggest they shouldn't be depending on it too much. Where I work, some teachers are very much against so sometimes so it's kind of like a taboo. You shouldn't use AI software in the classroom. But I think it's a good thing. The results were mixed. I do believe I actually did a class the other day on ChatGTP and looked at perceptions of students using ChatGTP, and they really liked it. But they can see the limitations of it, and they can see, especially students who are very much interested in learning English, they can see the limitations in it, and they shouldn't rely on it. Students who have no interest in English and just want to get a pass, they might just use it just to produce something to get a pass. But students who are very eager to learn and improve their English kind of recognize limitations, I think. Is that answer okay? Can you hear me?
Thank you very much for your answer. Another question from, okay.
Do you foresee
Sorry, you seem to be muted. I can't hear. I can't hear. I think the computer is muted. The microphone is off. On now.
Just repeat the question. Do you foresee a change in the method of, in the way you would assess the students as the IA softwares are becoming more important in the student's life, and how this could, in the end, make that? I'm sorry, it may be a bit confusing the way I'm trying to say the question, but do you fear that the students would rely too much on it, and that their work wouldn't be their work anymore, but the IA's work? And so you have to maybe change the way you assess the works, if that makes sense.
Okay, right. So, for example, the university sent around a memo about ChatGTP, and ChatGTP developed another open AI software which detects if students use ChatGTP to write their reports. So you can detect whether or not it's been AI generated. So there is a lot of suspicion. ChatGTP is just taking off. So there is some suspicion on whether it should be allowed to be used. With translation software, there are teachers who appreciate it, teachers who don't appreciate it. At my particular university, we are very big on e-learning and the use of AI technology to help teachers assess content, but not completely rely on it. This is very especially important for non-native teachers, Japanese teachers, who may have to teach content in LILLE classes, and they want a quick and efficient AI technology to help them assess work because they feel they don't have the ability to do it by themselves. So in that situation, AI can work positively, I think. But I'm very interested in this topic, and I think AI can be a very useful tool for the EFL classroom. So it'd be interesting to see what develops.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, perhaps the questions will arise in the process of using this artificial intelligence. Thank you very much, Professor Kavanagh, for connecting, despite the time difference, to the conference and so giving your time to us. I would now proceed with Professor Muhammad Sadiq Islam from University of Chittagong, Bangladesh. I am not sure that professor is here in the audience, and I'm not sure whether the professor is connected. So if professor is not connected, then we have the third presentation in this section, which I'm going to present myself in a second. Thank you, Professor Kavanagh. I hope that those who are connected can see the screen, since I'm sharing the screen now on the Teams. And this is the presentation that I intend to make in the name of Professor Giedrė Oleškevičienė, Gražina Čiuladienė, Liudmila Mackienė, and myself. We were thinking about surveying online language teaching and learning, and focusing on the situation in Lithuania. And also we were using one part of the project, intellectual output of the project tools, Dial for You. So that was created in 2022. So in the middle of the project, the questionnaire and part of the questionnaire and data from the questionnaire that we could share. First of all, the year 2022, the creation of the questionnaire and then sharing the questionnaire with partners and spreading the questionnaire in our home countries says about the condition and the situation in which a lot of language learners and teachers appeared in the very heat of pandemics. Therefore, the language learning and teaching using technology, using applications was inevitably dictated by the situation. On the other hand, we were testing the attitudes of basically teachers towards applying technology in their classrooms, which they were forced to do. And also we were looking at the historic perspective of the understanding of the application of technology in language teaching and learning. And it was always theoretically thought being of high importance, and we quoted some theory in our research and read theory from as far back as 2012. When the use of technology in language teaching was still optional, then there was a more serious political decision, which usually changes everything. And this was European Commission statement from 2020 that use of digital technologies empowers learners in all aspects, and language learning as well. And also the COVID crisis, health crisis, of course, resorted, so everyone, teachers and learners, to the high technologies to try to continue with the function of teaching and learning. Cannot proceed with the PowerPoint at the moment. I will try to walk this way. So the problem for us when we were looking at the data that we collected from the questionnaire was how does technology apply in language teaching and learning, and how does it change the teaching status in the learning environment, and what are the observable competencies in teaching and attitudes to application of information communication technologies in language learning classes. So the questions that we were discussing at the moments were how were teachers' digital skills improved throughout the online teaching process, how could different types of resources, audio, text-based and others, be categorized according to the degree of use in language teaching and learning, and could the categorization be related to the complexity of digital skills? And the research object for us was the educators' use of digital technology in language teaching and learning. I will introduce the aim, the research object and research aim, that is to study and to highlight the existing status and the possible advances and challenges of teacher digital skills in the use of digital technology for language teaching and learning. This is our structural representation of the research. So we looked at the context and literature that I quoted at the beginning. Then our methodology was questionnaire developed with the partner universities and internationally discussed. And the questionnaire appears as a very valuable tool for the research that we carried out within the project, the research that we reviewed within our personal interest here, and also for the future researchers, because we can continue using this questionnaire and reusing it for longitudinal studies. Also, we have research findings that reveal the status quo of those pandemic and immediate, both pandemic years and teaching and learning experiences in language classes situation. And we also have a general finding that the participants of the research intend to use and enhance their digital skills in future. The conclusions of our research were that the teacher digital skills are related to the use of interactive material for teaching and depend on that interactive material, and they are important for teachers to be developed. Also, very briefly, I will look at the methodology in as depicted here in this slide. I mentioned already that the questionnaire was internationally developed, that there were 36 research participants involved in teaching various languages at several Lithuanian institutions of higher education, university and higher education level. Then the authentic experiences in language teaching and learning processes and the educators' thoughts of using digital technologies and in teaching learning languages were summarized with the help of the questions and the insights into possible future teacher development in acquiring digital skills were also considered. So the data that we received in brief proves that pandemic experience led to the development of digital skills on the whole. There were no more self-assessing as beginner. So if before a pre-pandemic period, some teachers said that they're beginner users and their digital skills are on the beginner level in their self-esteem. So in mid of pandemics and in post-pandemic period, they mostly self-assess themselves as advanced, and this number grew twice, so it's 61.1% who consider that they're advanced users of digital technology. And there was a certain number of teachers who openly stated that they are expert teachers in applying digital skills in language teaching, 8.3%. So vast majority intended to continue developing their digital skills. So this shows that there is positive and actually optimistic reaction to applying digital skills to the classroom situation. And their intentions when asked in what way they're going to develop digital skills were learning with someone, with a tutor, taking part in a professional course, training, seminars for language teachers, which is actually numerous and still not enough, and also learning independently from examples, browsing the internet, searching and using relevant new apps. So there we actually come to the most interesting part of the presentation. I was negotiating what I'm going to skip all the time, and here is what we were finding from the beginning from the beginning of the pandemic situation and in the pandemic situation, and actually the overview in post-pandemic situation, the status of the language teachers in the classroom, in their self-esteem. Before the pandemic situation, they thought that they have either elementary level, most of them identified as being intermediate, so users of different technological appliances. There was 30.6% of answers who were self-confident and said that they are advanced users and their digital skills are advanced. But you may see that when the pandemics was in the in the role, the elementary group disappeared. Teachers grew more convinced in their capacity to use digital appliances. And from 52 to 61 rose, from 30 to 61 rose the self-evaluation as advanced users of digital technologies. Expert teachers did not exist in pre-pandemic period, but 8.3% of teachers now said that they are experts. And this 77.8% of optimistic and positive intentions in further development of their digital skills, and possibly 22.2%, which is also more on the optimistic side. Also, a very interesting finding is this one, which compares teachers with intermediate digital skills and advanced digital skills in teaching languages in the classroom, and the use of different interactive materials, digital materials that contain audio, video, text, visual aids, or interactive tasks. So we can say that only teachers with intermediate skill do not use at all the tasks that are available on the internet for language teaching and are interactive. So we have the only group with a blue color. They are not using those tasks at all. We also have a very extensive so rather modest, somewhat statement of application of visual aids for intermediate level of digital skills holders. We also have the teachers with advanced skills who are not really using interactive tasks and applications that are present in the internet. And basically, we may see that the reduction of colors to somewhat, a lot, and to a great extent, starting with the text, audio, video, and audio materials, practically with all levels of digital skills holders. We also asked about different online sources for which we were further working in our intellectual output one group. And we asked whether they are familiar and whether they are using those online sources. So as it appears, you see the massive wave of blue color, which is not at all practically over all those sources. But then there are obvious and disputed leaders. So there is quizzes, which says that it is being used to a certain degree, somewhat. Then we have online dictionaries, which are recognized leaders as well. Very early, they beat the blue color and they are used to a certain degree, a lot, and then a large number of answers gave this streak of pink color to a great extent. Then Kahoot, obviously, although there is still a group of teachers who said that they are not using it at all. So there is, although very popular, in comparison to other online sources, Kahoot is still not popular 100%. So speaking about findings and conclusions, we may say that Mostly visual aids and interactive materials are related to the teacher's self-evaluation of intermediate and advanced digital skills. Many of the online tools that were presented to the participants of our survey are not extensively used by the respondents. Data that we obtained from the questionnaire says that online tools are used more diversely and more often by advanced skilled educators and not by intermediate. General attitude towards acquiring digital skills and also using online applications is positive, highly positive. General attitude during COVID was highly positive. The vast majority of the respondents agreed that digital applications are useful for language learners, and they thought that for language learning skills such as listening and reading, those digital applications are mostly beneficial. Anik today in her presentation said that our intellectual outputs really speak mostly for the future research and for longitudinal research, and I would highly agree, and I speak in the name of my colleagues here, that we actually have here our pilot research that calls on for the master thesis and or the further doctoral thesis, and very interesting reactions of the teachers to self-assessment, to application of digital tools, and also to reaction to the environment. So positive effects of COVID were clearly seen in the findings of the answers towards the part of the questionnaire that we were analyzing. And we are very happy to have this chance to apply the questionnaire provided by the project. Thank you very much. We actually saved time, so we still have 10 minutes. We may either start our break, or if there are any questions for me, or maybe for people who made their presentation of their intellectual outputs earlier. If so, no inspiration at the moment. So I can call this a break, and we can wait for the other groups to reconvene.
So we meet here at
10 minutes? 10 minutes.